Alright folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join me in the wild landscape of Scotland. And for today's adventure, we've come to a similar location as to where I was in the last video. I'm up in the wild lands behind Backwater Dam in Scotland here. And in the last video I documented the location of an old school which used to be in the land here. And for today's adventure, I'm basically heading away around the back of these hills that you can see in the distance. One time, just before spring this year, probably like the tail end of winter, I went round there with Highlander 87 and we went on a mad adventure and documented a wee abandoned cottage. So in this video I thought it'd be super cool to head around past that old cottage and see what other history lies here within the lands of Scotland. So let's get into this adventure, folks. I love going places that I've never been before and seeing things that I've never seen. And it's amazing to document the wee historical nuggets out here in the land. This land's still obviously used for agriculture and gamekeeping and stuff like that. So I'm just staying alert and I'm hoping there's no big like bulls or something in the field. A herd of cows going to chase me. I just need to stay alert. But yeah, I'm still on the main road. This main road here actually goes up as far as the farm and then it just turns into a mud track. So it's the proper wilds, the remote lands of Scotland that we're going into today, folks. So yeah, let's get into the action. Check out now, I'm on the hill here at the far side of the dam and that's where I'm parked, away up at the other side. And this area here, it's a majestic scene, folks. That's the waters of the Backwater Dam in the distance, and I'm now rounding this corner. This is kind of located at the foot of Glen. And yeah, I just love adventures like this when you're kind of in the wilds. There's no main roads up here now. We've kind of come out of civilization. The land up here is purely agriculture and forests, and then there's some wild lands in between used for the gamekeeping. So yeah, it's an interesting adventure, folks, and who knows what we're going to find. It's so cool often uncovering little abandoned crofts or little buildings from such a long time ago. They're hardly seen and hardly documented. Check it out, folks, I've now come past the last farm that you kind of walk through on this track. I can now see this little abandoned house up ahead, but look at the size of this bull. He's a big lad, protecting his herd right here. He'll ken an unfamiliar face walking past, folks, but luckily there's a fence there. Obviously I come with the greatest respects, like the landowner and the farmers, and also the animals within these lands. There's probably been big bulls and cows grazing these lands since the ancient times of some of these little crofts and little cottages that we see here. Over at the far side there's actually an ancient remains of a farm and a wee cottage. Now it's nothing more than some stones in a square on the ground, but there is actually remains of an old lime kiln as well, and that probably dates back anywhere between like the 1400s to like the 1700s. And it's mad to think of that ancient history and that individual croft over there. It's a special place, folks. I just love imagining how it must have looked back at that time. Maybe less of this land deforested back at that time as well. So the interesting thing with this ancient croft at the other side, you can see how these fields have been put in. Most likely that was the fields for this croft originally, and that's how it's got those little walls, little dike lines around the property. And then this here, it's a wee abandoned cottage, but also at one time an individual croft here in the land. This cottage almost looks like it was abandoned in the 1960s, as was a couple of other places around here at the time of the construction of the Backwater Dam. Lower down the glen, there was actually a couple of little crofts and stuff that was like under the water when the dam was filled up, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, this is mad, this little cottage. On this adventure we are heading further around this hill, but I just thought as we walk past here I'll just throw the camera on, document the history of this place once again on the channel. I love the character of it, these old buildings set within such wild landscapes. It's almost desolate. If it wasn't for the sheep There's just nothing around hardly. But the incredible thing, there's massive birds of prey circling in the sky above. And they'll be doing a bit of hunting as well. Wow, this is so cool, folks. Imagine this was your little house up here. Wow, the character of it is special. Let's take a walk around it. Wow, I keep the camera rolling. It's so peaceful up here. All I can hear is literally the sheep all around the glen. Imagine how peaceful it would be living in a place like this. The sound of silence. Look at the old light fitting up on the roof. Wow. It's little details of history that I love to see. It's like the boys got pallets here maybe to stop the sheep going in. It's no so good if people force their way into these abandoned properties. Look at the wee window there. Wow, folks. What a scene of history on the channel. And that's the little gate there that I need to head through. This track just basically continues on round the hill. And that's what this adventure is all about today. The character of that wee windy there, folks. And then look, you can see the mark where there's been a shed or something built on the end of this at one time. And then out here is the remains of the ancient croft buildings. Wow, and then there it is, folks, an ancient cottage on the hill with this majestic view all around it. None but open hills, well, rolling hills I should say, and open land. Such a wide open space. Often the storms come through here. Imagine the wintry winds blowing. That's why places like this often get damaged and go downhill so quick. Once they're empty, if you imagine for the 1960s till now, it's just the weather's taking its toll. And look, this track just keeps going. So yeah, it's mad. Places like this, folks, I never know what I'm going to see. And I always say the spontaneous adventures are the coolest ones. Sometimes just going full send somewhere that there's not even a main road. It's when you find the rarest seen things. Often this is the tracks that's got undocumented history here. Look how the old croft has had like a bit of a shed there or a garage, but also the old stone outline of like an animal sorting area. Imagine the hustle and bustle that went on here at a certain time. And then once it was abandoned, most likely the land taken on by the bigger farmer along the road. And then houses like that and buildings, they just fell silent until the odd explorer comes past on a walk. Yeah, there's just sheep on every hill, right to the top. And it looks like some mad forests potentially on the other side of this hill. I'm not even sure what direction this road goes. I'm thinking it might be a complete circuit right around the hill, and I'm just intrigued to see like what history lies alongside that track. Or yeah, it's just mad. I'm lost for words often. Look at this, even for a scene. The way this bog grass grows up in front of the old field gate, and then the wee track making its way over the hill. Everything around, when I look around, it's just like seeing an amazing photograph. Even the character of the dry stone dikes, the way they're constructed in such an ancient time. Check out, folks, little beetle there chilling on the path. Wow. I'm not actually sure what he's doing. That's mad how we can find like nature and stuff like that and document it on the channel. He's moving his head around. I'm not sure what's wrong with him, but yeah, there you go, folks. A Scottish beetle. Check out, folks, look how desolate the land is. Now I've come around the corner from that wee croft, and look, we've got this kind of little river burn running over the land. And luckily somebody's put a bridge in, but look, you can see how high the water's been. This whole area has been flooded with the rainwaters, and that's the kind of mad storms that you get in Scotland. This seems pretty strong, I would say, apart from the fact it's got holes in it. Wow, what a landscape, folks. I'm just keeping going this direction, and I'm just planning on trying to keep this hill on my right hand side, and then surely I'll be able to navigate my way like all the way around. But really, I'm in no man's land, and it's just like somewhere that I've never been. And it is just crazy being in unfamiliar territory. Like, everything I'm looking at is like new. I've never seen it before. Within these lands, I'm just keeping my eyes peeled for ancient history. I was thinking this hill up here almost has the look of an ancient Iron Age hill fort, but I'm not actually sure. Sometimes you can tell from the lie of the land. Some ancient historical wonders have got a similar footprint, so when you see them you can tell what it is straight away, and that's often after exploring for years. You get to know the common things in the land. Anyway, let's keep heading along here. This is cool, folks. Look at this. There's more sheep grazing on the far hill. And it must be a nightmare trying to find all your sheep when they're out in these lands. The sheepdog will be a main tool here for these shepherds. Check it out, folks. There's a bigger beetle. He's a different type. He's a lot larger in size. It's great conditions out here for these Scottish beetles, and I do love documenting the nature as well as the wild lands. This is mad, folks. I truly am in no man's land, and I've crossed that stream like 3 or 4 times over those rickety bridges. Each one of them wobbles when you step on it, and I'm just keeping on going up this track. I'm waiting to have a look over this area here and see how it looks. It's mad here because there's no sign of civilization. Oh look, there's 2 tracks at this point here. I'm really not sure which track I'd be best to go. This is maybe the same one that loops back around. I'll take a walk up this one. Yeah, there's just crazy landscapes. It's just unforgiving territory, like, unless you're a sheep or something. So check it out here, folks. This is as far as I'm coming up this path. It literally is just out on the wild hill, and I can't see a path taking me over that direction. There is a couple of routes that I can see here on the hill where the boys been going up with the quad, and I was debating on whether to go straight up the side of that hill. But then if I go back the way I came around to the other side where the farm is, there's actually a secondary road takes me that direction. I'm thinking that would be the one to go for, but it is like a 3-mile hike to get even back round to the start point of that road. So yeah, these adventures are often mad, folks. Out in these lands trying to find history that's rarely seen. Sometimes you can go on some mad walks, and I can feel the rain actually starting to spatter as well. It's been so cool coming out here, and like, see, when you come round the corner you never know what you're going to see, but each time on this walk when I was coming up it was getting more and more wild, more and more desolate, and the path was just starting to disappear. So I'm just thinking, like, I'm not sure if this even is the right path. It looks like it just kind of goes up and keeps going up to the top of this hill. So yeah, who knows, folks. I can see it's sunshine round where I was, but this side of the hill it's like a different day. Some of these glens have almost got their own climate. Check it out here, folks. We've made it back as far round as this wee cottage here, and I've been going at a fair old pace here walking. I was actually like overheating. The temperatures are incredible. Probably like half an hour's passed since the last clip when you saw me around the other side of the hill. Look at this here, folks. It is a mad scene of history. Almost a postcard scene. A little paradise spot for a house way out here in the peace and quiet. Originally the house would have only been the length of the 2 chimneys, and at a later time the end building was built onto it, maybe in the 18 or early 1900s, and then I believe it was abandoned in around the 1960s, maybe the 70s. So yeah, I'm just heading back past this field. Down here is the one where the big bull is at the edge, and he's a scary beast. I need to basically head back around here and go right along the other side of that hill. There's a whole other track, so it's mad that I couldn't find a road that connected between those 2 tracks. The one I was just on, it was such a far walk. Here we are, folks. Look, a friendly cow here chilling out. Look at the big bull. I wonder if he's friendly. Bulls can be proper aggressive. And look at the wee calfies. These must be the calfies here. Probably this bull's brood, as you would say. Look at its ring and its nose. It looks like a pretty chilled out kind of bull, like. And look at the wee calfie, whoa! I don't want to get a fright. I don't want to upset it. They probably didn't see many people coming past. I'm not wanting that bull to get angry either. Yeah, I can see cows grazing on the far hill. Last time when I came into this location with Highlander 87, we made a proper mad adventure around the bottom. Because we were trying to get to the farm croft at this side. But that was in like the springtime conditions when everything was so much easier to navigate. At this time of year, the tail end of summer, everything's so overgrown. You're often better sticking to the tracks. But in another month or so, it's going to be perfect for exploring once again, once all this stuff dies back. There's also ancient remains here. There's been something built here at a certain time. Maybe an original farm before this one down here. Check out, folks, I'm now around the other side of the hill on the other track that I was wanting to go up, but now the rain has actually come on, so it's an incredible scene once again. We're getting all types of weather on today's adventure, and that's the reason I put this coat on today. I was expecting a mixture of different weather conditions, but one minute I'm like too hot, and then the next minute it's cold wind, and then now the rain's on, so it's just typical Scotland. I can see a little stone shed up here. I believe that's to do with the workings of the backwater dam and the pipe work which goes underneath the land from backwater dam all the way to Lintrathen Loch. I think these little sheds are like related to the dam because we're in close proximity to the shores of the dam here. But yeah, it's interesting to see that up on the hill. Anyway, let's head on further up here. So once again, at this point of the adventure, I've got no idea what we're going to even see. Once we get round this corner, there could literally be anything. There could be something cool to go and explore. Look at the way the rainstorm is like moving over the fir trees on the far hill there. And then all the sheep are grazing these lands. And yeah, there's been some timber operations getting done up there as well recently, but there's still loads of this forest here. It's a massive forest. And yeah, we're kind of going into another little valley down here. I can see on this wild hill beside me ancient remains of what must have been a road or a track leading round higher up on the hill before this road here was put in. So that is a sign that there could have been some sort of building or a residence around here or a historical site. So it's interesting to see bits on the land like that. And I was just thinking there's actually a road through the forest, but I'm not sure if there's a decent way I could get round that way. After I've explored this side of the valley, it would be cool to do a mad circuit round there through the forest, but I think it's maybe just too early in the year. I think it might just be too overgrown for a mad adventure like that. In the winter, I just love doing stuff like that, folks, just picking a route and trying to find my way through the lands. So an interesting fact here, folks, that scar in the land I was saying may be an old track goes as far along the hill as this stream. So it shows that it's most likely an old water source that was getting taken off the hill back in the days, probably like the 1800s or before it. They would have been taking a water source through a pipe all the way around to the nearby farm there in the lands, which is so cool to think about. That's probably like powering a water wheel or a mill at an ancient time. That's the kind of layers of history you can uncover just by looking at the land. On the faraway hill here beside the trees, there's actually an old circle of stones right there. It's been some kind of building, and then there's more stones down at the lower level, so I'm not sure if within that forest there's been an area before the trees were planted that may have been like for sorting out sheep or whatever. It could even be an old croft or a farm from an ancient time as well. Anyway, I'm just keeping heading along here. I've literally walked miles today, folks. You wouldn't even believe it unless you tried to go the same route. And it's just crazy the things you see along the way. Look at these wild thistles out here on the hill. A little bit of colour in the autumn. And look, that bee is sitting on there eating it. Well, getting the pollen. Check it out, folks. I followed my exploring instinct, and you knew I wouldn't let you down on the channel here. We found a piece of abandoned history here that I've never documented before on the channel, and it looks like some sort of wee house or a wee building of some sort. And it's mad because I've never ever walked this far down the road, and literally the soles of my feet are hurting. I was thinking back there, should I just turn around, but I didn't. I kept walking. And here's this incredible ancient historical wonder out here on the hill. Maybe a wee farm croft. Like I say so much on the videos, like these lands were shaped and carved often by the farming communities over the years. And this is a kind of level area here with like a pile of stones. I'm not sure if there's been other buildings related to this site. I can imagine they were probably fishing in the wee burn or whatever too back in the day, depending on how deep it is. From here I can't really see. That's one of the little streams that flows its way down into the backwater dam. Yeah, wow, check this out. I can't even believe this. It just shows heading into some of these paths that I've never been before. There's always something new to see. This has probably been somebody's little house originally, and then later on maybe used as a bit of a shed. It's so extremely overgrown, it's unreal at this time of year. I can see the willow herb standing higher than the roof. Look at the wee windows. Often in Scotland that was to keep the heat in. You just had little windows on your house, just enough to let in a bit of light. And then look, there's been a shed or a garage at this end, maybe built on at a later time. This little site here, look, it's a proper swamp right there. The conditions at this time of year are just extreme for exploring. Look, the wooden lintel and stuff is still there. It's like it's had a peaked roof as well. It's just been a little garage. I can't imagine how they would have driven out and in if this was their driveway, because it's such a drop down to the height of there. Maybe it was just for like a horse and cart. Maybe it trundled its way around a wooden bridge or whatever even over that stream. Often so many years has passed with these properties. You have to imagine it in the 1800s and stuff. How would it have looked? And it would have been incredible. Wow, this grass and nettles here is just like head height. And look at this side of the building, there's no windows at all. It's interesting to take in those details as we walk around. Wow, this is incredible. This is maybe one that I need to come back to in the winter to get properly into it. I can see the old wooden roof beams and stuff lying down within the property. Wow, folks, what an adventure, what a place. It's the character of abandoned Scotland at its finest. Let's head on down in. Even though it's pretty overgrown and pretty boggy, you know how it is on this channel. We've walked this far, we need to take in the history. I'm obviously being super aware of like ticks and stuff like that in the lands, but also earlier on the hill there I was aware of adders and other such like creatures which lurk. Yeah, and this is just mad to see it. Look at the wee doors and the wee lintel stones above it. Made with stone, most likely gathered out here on the hill locally. And then the sandstone, I'm not sure where they've gotten that from, but it looks well cut. Maybe quarried and chiselled as well from local lands. I'll go a little bit further around here. Let's take in a bit more of this history. Look at all this, the nettles and the grasses and stuff. It's all starting to die back for the winter conditions. We have had frost now this week, and that just shows how winter's moving in here to these lands. Wow, look at it, folks. The character of that, it's special. And I'm glad I kept walking up this glen. I've literally come out of the valley that I was already in. I've come up this kind of side track, and that's where this kind of stands within the lands. Wow. I can just see there was like beasties like on my leg and I need to get out of this wilderness, folks. It's crazy. I think in the winter we'll come and have a better look around. Maybe a mill or whatever here at one time, if they were using the source of water. Wow, there's no way I would get in there. It's so overgrown. It's an extreme environment at this time of year. Wow, it's mad that, so folks. Another wee cottage, a wee house, documented on the channel. Not in the greatest of detail because of the summertime conditions, which are almost over. The grass is starting to go that yellow way. but if it gets a layer of snow on it at a certain time, it'll flatten it down. Yeah, I've got the actual trousers tucked into the socks, and that's in case there's any ticks lurking here within these lands. I've not seen as many this year as I have previous years, but I don't want to take too many risks climbing through that when I can clearly see the willow herbs higher than head height. I'll head a wee bit further along here and see what else is within these lands. This is one of these adventures, folks. I'm kind of all over the wild lands, just following these tracks and roads that I've never been. And look at this. Oh, it's maybe just wood from the forestry operations. I was thinking that was the remains of something. Yeah, this track continues on. I think I'll go a little bit further. Yeah, look at that. It's in the middle of that kind of bog grass and bogland. Probably when it was inhabited, all that would have been drained and properly maintained. So many years has passed. Probably early 1900s or whatever. That's been abandoned, just sitting there decaying. Some of those houses, the roof stones or slabs was taken from them, used for newer projects and builds. But probably originally that house there would have had either a thatched roof or the stone slab roof for sure. And then as the years progressed, I'm not sure if the stone slab roof fell in or if it ever had a slate roof. Wow, check this out, folks. This wee bridge looks like a flooded bridge. It must be a full cement construction here. And there's just so much little streams and burns making their way over the land. It's so cool I could share wee corners of Scotland like this with people all over the world. It's so cool just throwing the camera on and finding stuff like that. It gives me an excuse to get lost in these wild lands that I would never be walking otherwise. Sometimes you could just find the coolest of things. Yeah, that's an interesting bit there, folks. See how it's like dug out? That may well have actually been dug out. You wouldn't have thought they would have needed to make a dam so at the time of that area there. Not unless they had a dam for the times when the burn was low. Maybe if it was a little mill or some sort of building like that. It's from such ancient times, folks. It's cool to find it and theorise of the history. So check it out, folks. That sign there says footpath to Backwater Dam, 6 miles. That's the way I've just come, and there's another path going up that way, but I've just noticed there's this track going around here as well. It would be super cool if I could find a way to get up onto the forestry track at the other side, because my car's literally parked at the other end of there, and that would cut out so much of this side of the glen. So I'm going to head up here. Also, the way the trees is planted here, it almost looks like there's been an abandoned historical wonder at one time within these lands. And look, down here you can actually see the wee building that we just explored. It's so cool the way it sits here in the land. Forgotten, almost gone with the wild weather and the winds. There's some massive birds of prey as well, flying around in the sky here. Red kites. Wow, I don't even know if that is a red kite, folks. Look at it. I think it could be an eagle. Look at that, folks, an eagle. I'll shout to it. Hee! See if it'll come back. Do the eagle call, folks. Look at the size of that bird of prey. I believe it could potentially be a golden eagle, folks. I can't believe the size of that thing right there. It is windy here, and I apologise for that in the audio. I don't know how well that even came out. It was flying over my head. Only one time before in my life I've actually seen an eagle, so I'm not 100% sure, but it wasn't a red kite and it wasn't a buzzard. Check it out, folks. The rain's come on heavy since that last clap. And this area up here is where I was thinking there may have been an ancient building of some sort. And this piece of land, look at that, the rain's on heavy. That's been what I'm dealing with today, folks. The weather's been up and down, but we're still out here, all conditions, making these adventures possible. And just look at this piece of land. It's like there has been a building here, or a croft of some sort. So this weather is extreme, folks. I'm just literally taking shelter under these trees. It's kind of like some sort of old scrap metal steps or whatever there. I'm not sure if that's been something built here or if it's just been dumped here. I went a little bit further around there just to see if there's any more like abandoned buildings or history, but the weather's so extreme, folks, that I've turned around on the track because I'm literally like miles from my car right here. So you can imagine how it is being out in these conditions exploring when it's so far to walk. It's so cool we found that little abandoned building down there after going all the way around these glens. That's what I love though, just going full send out onto these tracks or these roads and seeing what is around. And look at the way the rain's blowing in front of these trees. That's how I've got this waterproof coat on. And yeah, it's just the perfect jacket for adventures like this. When the sun comes back out in a few minutes, this jacket will dry off proper quick. But yeah, it was worth coming up here because I thought the way this area was planted and levelled, there's definitely been some sort of building here, but there's obviously no remains of walls or whatever. So check it out, folks, I'm now back. That's the little abandoned croft kind of building or mill building or whatever it was down there, and I'm heading the opposite direction of where my car's parked. So I was just going to come up this hill and see if there's anything cool or see what the lands look like around this corner. That's the exploring spirit that this channel's built on, folks. I used to go on some mad adventures. Even in the early days of my channel, we've always come into the wildest of lands to explore, to find the coolest things. And I'm always just like buzzing if I come into an area that I've never been. Look at the way the land is here, folks. Sometimes a rainy day is the coolest sort of time to explore. The land's got a different character, more wild. And look, it's like there's a track leads right along there. It's almost like a footpath, but it's probably a deer path. It looks well trodden. Wow, folks, I'm going to head a bit further up and I'll update you. On today's adventure, I've dealt with so much different weathers, different extreme conditions, and now I'm proper soaked. Look at my coat. My trousers are feeling a little damp, but that's what it's all about. Full send into wild environments, folks. You get wild weathers, but you could just sit at home on a rainy day and miss out on some amazing landscapes and things. And look at this here, it's like there's been a wee quarry or whatever. I'm not sure how far up this track I'm heading, but I don't want to go too far considering how far I've already walked today. So check it out here, folks. It almost looks like a stone quarry at the lower level, but like a sand quarry higher up. And that shows you what's under the ground here. It actually looks like there's been somebody on a mountain bike or whatever coming down and hitting the jumps. But I think for today's adventure I'd be better turning around because I've walked so far. I don't know if it comes out on the video, like the distance covered, but it's been cool to see what we've seen along the way. And yeah, it's just the wildest of environments. Maybe next time I'll have to come back and head further up here. Maybe once this vegetation dies back further, we'll have a proper look at that wee mill. But then we could head even further up into these lands and maybe try and do a circuit and come round the other side of the glen. I love to see it, folks. The rain rolling past in the distance in front of those fir trees in that forest, and then the wee abandoned historical wonder down at the river's edge, and then the sound of the water trickling its way past. And that's it. There's no other sounds from here apart from wildlife and nature, the odd bird making its call. Maybe when this little building down here was in its prime, this might have not been such a peaceful area. It was maybe a hustling, bustling little mill with the water wheel trundling away, churning with the water, powering the mill or the grinding wheels, whatever they were doing back at that time. But then also it may have just been a farm croft on its own here, abandoned like so many other crofts that we see so often here in Scotland. So check it out, folks, there's the sign, footpath to Backwater Dam, 6 miles this direction that we're heading. The amount of gates that I've crossed today as well is just unreal. So this little building here, folks, is the coolest thing we found today on the adventure. It's been a mad adventure, really, like the area we've explored and the places we've gone, but to find this hidden here, look, it's a habitat to these little birds that's fleeing about. They actually look like, I think it's a robin sitting on the faraway wall there. And then these other little birds fleeing about, tweeting. Probably eating the seeds off the grass, and the wee beasties that's fleeing about, they're probably getting a feed on some of the midges or fleas. And yeah, a wee building like that tells a story of the history here in the glen. Probably a little family making their living for generations potentially, and then one day it's just abandoned and forgotten. It just fell silent on these lands, and then nature just takes back over so quick, especially when it was probably such a damp spot. I can hardly even get to it today because it's in the middle of that bog. And yeah, the willow herb inside, because the wind and stuff's not been destroying it, it's just growing to incredible heights. And probably this little stream's quite ferocious in a storm as well. I can guarantee some days it's flowing up against that wee house. Yeah, what an adventure, folks. Anyway, I'll update you once I'm further down. It looks like it's still raining at the far side of the glen. Check it out, folks, that's like a once in a lifetime experience. I looked back up the valley where I've just walked from, and look at the rainbow over the top of the hills. Wow, that is incredible. It's just like a low rainbow, and you can tell how far I've walked because now I'm completely dry. After being absolutely soaked when I was at the far end, I've come right down this little valley here, and now I'm joining back into this other valley in the land. And yeah, I was just a way to put the camera on to tell you what stage I was at in my walk, and then boom, I turned around and it's just mad. The whole sky, it looks blue and red, but it's in front of the hills, it's in front of the trees. But yeah, folks, it's often opportunities like that when you just turn around, you see a cool bit of nature, a cool bit of wildlife, or like a mad rainbow in the sky, which is just, it's totally gone now. It's just that opportunity of a moment. Things you would never normally see. It's only there in the sky for like a couple of minutes, if that, and then it's gone. And it's just like going into some fairy tale landscape, folks. That's what it's like. Mad little caterpillar there, folks. A hairy caterpillar. Check out, folks, it's been a long walk, but I'm just about back to my car, which is parked at the far side of this little hill here. And look at this, it's an old abandoned building at the roadside, probably a thriving little farm. Now it's almost gone and forgotten. Maybe a place like that will get redeveloped one day or whatever, but it's kind of sitting in a bog. Back in the day they used to make the most out of whatever land they had. It would have been drained or whatever, but nowadays it's been sitting dormant. The water's stagnated all around it. But yeah, I'm going to end this one here, folks. It's been a mad adventure. We've seen some crazy lands, but not only that, that cool little abandoned building that we found next to the stream, never seen before on the channel, and that's what I love, going into these mad landscapes, and not only the history, but the wee things we see in between, the cool pieces of land, even a little bridge like this. Look how pure and clear the water is here, flowing in to the backwater dam at the far end of this valley. And yeah, it's been cool to document another piece of Scotland, hardly seen and hardly videoed, but I'm ending it here. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back soon with the next one, wherever I end up going.